Hi, my name is John Schwartzman. I'm the cinematographer of Benny and June, sometimes referred to as the director of photography. And what you're looking at actually is something that I haven't seen in a very long time, which are the original filter tests and hair and makeup tests for Benny and June. We actually combined all the tests into sort of one group of shooting because we only had the actors for one day. Typically, you might go out and shoot filter tests on one day and then bring the actors in and spend a day or two with the makeup artist and then even another day with the costume designer. But in this case, we were getting very close to the start of this film, and we decided that it would be best if we could combine everything. So what you're going to see are a lot of really boring shots of Johnny Depp, who plays Sam in the movie. Still plenty of light in the sky, and there was this beautiful golden light dancing off the river. And that was one of those scenes where we took every camera we had and did it all at once and didn't really worry about continuity. What you're seeing here actually is some speed tests that we were doing because in preparation for this movie, Johnny Depp spent a lot of time watching Buster Keaton films. He spent actually I think he spent 6 weeks researching Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin and a lot of the great silent film stars. And one of the things that the silent film stars did was that they played with camera speeds as a way to influence the way their stunts would come off. I mean, especially in the days of the silent films, you know, stunt technology is not what it is today. So those people were true circus performers. I mean, they were really doing those stunts. Buster Keaton really did the kind of stunts that he did, and Charlie Chaplin did those. So what we were trying to do was see if by doing what they had done in the 20s, by altering our camera speed, we could in some way sort of give Sam's Keaton-esque features a bit of extra magic. Normally a motion picture camera runs at 24 frames per second. You film it at 24 frames per second and you run it back at 24 frames per second, and that feels like real time. In other words, as long as you play back at the same speed you record, everything happens in real time. And what you're seeing here are slates that say 22 frames per second. So what we've actually done is we're shooting the camera at a slightly slower speed than we're playing it back, which effectively speeds up his motion. But not so much that it looks obviously speeded up. It just sort of subtly gives him his movement a little more freneticism. When we ultimately went and did the movie, we shot his stuff at normal speed. I think the first day we did some stuff with Johnny, we shot it at 2 speeds, but then we decided that really he was so talented and his movements were so believable and so fluid that we didn't have to really go ahead and screw around with the camera speeds. It was really more a case of less is more, which is really one of the truest things about Benny and June altogether, which was my idea was to really try to stay out of the actor's way as much as I could, that I wanted to create visually the world for them to perform in, but to be very invisible. And I think we succeeded very much on it. I mean, I think the photography helps tell the story, which is something that you try to do as a cinematographer. One of the interesting things actually about doing Benny and June was that Jeremiah had taken me aside in the beginning and said, look, if we stay on schedule, the studio will leave us completely alone and we can do anything we want, which led to a few sort of unique things that we did on this movie. One of them was that there's a sequence, it's actually a montage sequence, and it's after June has left the house and had her breakdown on the bus, and she's in the hospital, and Benny has come to see her, but she's turned him away, and he's walking through a train yard. And Jeremiah had always envisioned this sequence as nighttime with rain and real moody and trains moving all around, and sort of this really beautiful sequence that I was really excited about filming. And ultimately, like a lot of things in the movie, you start to get towards the end and you don't have as much money and you start to become creative, and we were actually going to lose that sequence because we didn't really need it to tell the story and we didn't have the money to do it the way that Jeremiah wanted to do it. So I had come up with the idea of let's shoot it day for night. They used to do it all the time in the Westerns. We don't need any lights, we won't have any rain, but we'll make it look like nighttime even though it's the middle of the day. So we went to the train yard. And that's why that sequence you can't, it doesn't look like night, but it doesn't look like day. It has a sort of otherworldly feel, and that was just, you know, taking a chance and sort of going for it and trying to bring a little bit of the, you know, old techniques of filmmaking back into this. One of the other things that we did was the entire hospital in Benny and Joon is 1L. It was a 60-foot corridor that made a right turn and went another 120 feet. And what we would generally do is we would shoot it as the first floor in the morning, and then the art department, while the crew was at lunch, would change all the doors and all the elevator signs to say the third floor, and suddenly it was the third floor. And we had this whole entire map drawn out that we had pasted on the back of one of the set walls so that we would never get lost, because we had this thing where you could only go like counterclockwise around this set, because if you went the other direction you got lost as to where you were, because basically they would go down the hallway, make a right turn, and then we would pick them up again at the end of the other hallway, and it became the sort of like infinite, you know, set. But it was a very creative way to use a limited amount of resources, and I think that that was really one of the ingenious things that Jeremiah really brought to Benny and Joon was, you know, I don't need to have an entire huge hospital to do this. This is what I need to tell this story. These are the elements, and this is how we can make it work. And I think that caught the spirit of the entire crew, because Jeremiah was not afraid to take chances, and therefore all the way down the line everybody else sort of carried that spirit throughout the film, and I hope it shows. I certainly feel proud of my work on it, and I think everyone associated with it probably feels the same.